What is good, defenders, and welcome. It's the night before a match, so you know what time it is. That's right. It is time for One More Sleep, your favorite pre-match segment here on Defenders of the Bank. Hello, indeed. What's good, everybody in the chat? It's time to talk the Houston Dynamo. This is a matchup that I actually circled on the calendar as soon as I saw the schedule. We'll talk about the LAFC roster in just a second too, because a little bit of a surprise there with Lorenzo Della Valle going on loan. Beto, what's happening, my man? Everybody out there, Mike Gray in the chat. We love our chat here on Defenders. You guys know you guys do it as good as anybody else. That's kind of cool that when you put a question into StreamYard's chat, what I can see there is it's a little question bar there. So that's fun. I don't think it does anything, but there's a little question there. Also, the ADD is for real right now, y'all. So one more sleep to close out February. LAFC taking on the Houston Dynamo, Shell Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. Saturday, February 28th, 5:30 is the kickoff on Apple TV, so make sure you check that one out for sure. Let's talk the Houston Dynamo. Dave, that's right, the gray-haired goose. That's me. Let's talk the Houston Dynamo real quick. Let's look in the Wayback Machine to 2025. And oh, by the way, I'm wearing the old school first-year YouTube kit because we are going to go into the Wayback Machine. Back when we used this kit, we got a lot of different things going on here in the chat. Rob, I'll have to get to those in just a second. Hold on here. Mateusz Bogusz signed as a designated player, which we were not prepared to do, I don't think, at the time. So let's get into Houston Dynamo. Last season, 2025, Houston Dynamo finishing in 12th place in the Western Conference, 4 points out of a playoff spot. There were several teams tied above them on 41 points to get in. They had 37 points. They won just 9 of their matches last season in the MLS regular season. 9 wins, 15 losses, and 10 draws. In those 37 points, to get to those 37 points, I should say, 43 goals scored last season, 56 goals allowed for a minus 13. That was 2025. Let's talk about their record in 2026. They are 1-0-0. They won their only match so far in 2026, and that match was a victory at home for them over the Chicago Fire. They defeated the Chicago Fire 2-1. That was last Saturday, February 21st. They've played just one match in 2026. We have obviously already played 3, so this will be our 4th match of 2026. They have played just once, Saturday, February 21st. We'll talk a little bit more about that match against the Chicago Fire in just a second. But first, we've got to talk about LAFC's record against Houston. This will be our 19th overall meeting. And, it's a fairly middling record against the Houston Dynamo, if we are going to be honest. 7 wins, 6 losses, and 5 draws in all competitions. I will still never forgive the Houston Dynamo for their 2018 semifinal win over LAFC in the U.S. Open Cup, where I was at a concert and screamed as I went to the back to be watching the game on my phone as a couple players missed PKs for us and we lost 7-6 on penalties. We would have moved into our first final ever playing for that U.S. Open Cup, but oh well on that one. Either way, still upset at the Houston Dynamo over that. On the road, however, it is not good. In fact, it is downright abysmal. LAFC in Houston, terrible. 1 win in 8 tries. That's right. 1 win, 4 losses, 3 draws against Houston in Houston. Our only win came all the way back in 2019. A 3-1 victory in Houston, 2019. The goal scorers in that one. How about a brace from number 99? And I am not talking about Denis Bouanga in that one, of course. Our first number 99, Adama Diomande, with 2 goals, the first 2 goals in that match. The assist on both of those goals going to Lee Win. That's right, Lee Win to Adama Diomande twice, and then the third goal. Let's play Name That Perez. If you've been around with us long enough, you know. How about Joshua Perez getting the assist to Diego Rossi? Diego Rossi scoring the third goal for LAFC, assisted by Josh Perez. Subbing on in the 89th minute of that match back in 2019 for Josh Perez would be one Eddie Segura. That's right, Eddie Segura still with LAFC. He subbed on in the 89th minute in our only victory in Houston. Let me just give you the starting 11 in that match against the Houston Dynamo back in 2019. Up top, you had Adama Diomande starting in the middle. Alongside of him on one side was Joshua Perez, and on the other side, starting next to Adama Diomande, the immortal Fito Zelaya. That's right, he got the start in our only victory against Houston in Houston. Our midfield was epic. Lee Win. And how about flanking him on both sides? Mark Anthony Kay and Peter Lee Vassell. If you didn't have 3 names, you couldn't play with Lee Win that day. The Jamaican sensation, Peter Lee Vassell. And as Philly called him on many occasions, the Canadian glory machine, Mark Anthony Kay. We got all kinds of Canadian glory machines on LAFC now. And our back line, Mohamed El Munir and Stephen Betashore. Actually, let me take that back. Captain Stephen Betashore on the wings for LAFC. And our 2 center backs on that one, Tristan Blackman and Dejan Jakovic, both playing in front of the immortal Tyler Miller. And the only player who I have not mentioned who actually played in that match for us as well, subbed on at halftime for Peter Lee Vassell, would be Lee Win. That's right, no Carlos Vela in that victory in Houston. By the way, the only player still left on the roster for the 2023 match, and I'll get into that in just a second. I'm actually getting a little ahead of myself, so let me back up here. In 2026, the one victory for Houston. They've only played the one match, 2-1 over Chicago. In that game, both of their goals scored by their new signing, and you know Brazilians love to go by the one name. It's just Guilherme. Just Guilherme scores for Houston by way of Recife, formerly in Serie B, and then played all over in both Serie B and Serie A for Brazil. Last with Santos. This guy is pretty good. Guilherme, in 2024 and 2025, all he did was have 20 goals and 20 assists total in 94 matches with Santos, helped Santos get promoted out of Serie B in 24 and into Serie A in the Brazilian top flight in 2025. The 30-year-old winger came out of the gates hot. It was his first ever game with Houston Dynamo. So Guilherme, very, very good. Houston totally remaking their roster in 2026. 6 players, including Guilherme and Mateusz Bogusz, more on him in a second, making their Houston debuts out of the starting 11 last week. They've got a defender, Lucas Halter, out of Botafogo, who's very good. Franco Negri, who we saw with both San Diego FC and Miami, he is now on the back line for Houston. A defensive midfielder, Agustin Buzat, who comes over by way of Argentina's first division, and forward Nick Markanich, who's technically on loan from La Liga 2, but he was a big-time goal scorer with the Charleston Battery of the USL, really remaking their roster back with the club. The 35-year-old former Mexican national team star Ache Hector Herrera. All he did in 2022 to 2024 is play 82 matches with the Houston Dynamo, most of them with the captain's armband on, 30 goal contributions in 82 matches. He left to go to Toluca, but came back this offseason. And the interesting thing about Ache, he came back not as a designated player, which is what he was for most of his tenure in Houston, not even as a TAM player, but he is a regular salaried MLS player. How the mighty have fallen for the once great Ache, Hector Herrera. Not so mighty. They're hoping that their designated player can play a little more mightily than he has been, is one Ezequiel Ponce. He's Houston's third designated player, behind, of course, Guilherme and Mateusz Bogusz. In his 51 matches with the Houston Dynamo, just 18 goals and 1 assist. So trying to be as straight line of a 9 as they come. The goal scorer there, Ezequiel Ponce, just 18 goals and 1 assist. He averages a goal every 225 minutes as a designated player for Houston. Their goalkeeper, we know about him quite a bit. That would be Bond. Jonathan Bond, the 32-year-old Englishman who came up through the Watford system. And yes, he did play 46 matches with Watford, but he is his most experienced, of course, with the gals from Carson. Just 16 clean sheets in 92 matches. He averages giving up about 1.65 goals per game for the Galaxy when he was there. If he starts, which we think he will, he started in Houston's opening match of 2026, it will be Jonathan Bond's 10th start versus LAFC, tied for the most that he's had against any team in his career. And in the previous 9 matches, Jonathan Bond has won just 3 of them, and he has given up more goals against LAFC, 19 in those 9 matches, than he has given up against any club he has ever faced, averaging 2.1 goals per game allowed against LAFC. Not playing in the match, their one major injury of any concern would be Artur, the 29-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder. He's captained the club since Ache has left. 128 matches, almost 11,000 minutes for the Dynamo. Not there. And he has been a thorn in the side of LAFC, Artur, the very talented 29-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder. And, oh, by the way, since we last saw Houston in 2025, gone are a bunch of names that we are very familiar with. Nico Lodero, no longer on the Houston Dynamo. Daniel Steres, who I think I've heard is looking for another team, but this might be it for Daniel Steres. Amine Bassi, Sebastian Ferreira, Griffin Dorsey, Brooklyn Reigns, all names that we are very familiar with playing Houston over the last several years are no longer on the Dynamo. And of course, 2 former LAFC lads no longer on the Dynamo as well. Eric Dueñas now with Querétaro, but he's playing for their U21s. He's not up with the big club. He's with Querétaro's U21s. And Franco Escobar, who's now with another club we're very familiar with, Peñarol. That's right, Peñarol. But he is playing sparingly for Peñarol. So Eric Dueñas and Franco Escobar, no longer LAFC connections on Houston. Of course, the big one is Mateusz Bogusz, and we'll talk about him in just a second. And lastly, their head coach is an absolute MLS legend, and he's done a whole lot before even his 47th birthday, I believe. MLS legend Ben Olsen in his 4th season with Houston. And Gomez, I appreciate you for sure as well. Yes, Latif, he was on the team there for a bit, Rob. I wouldn't say he played there for a bit, but he was on the team a couple of seasons ago. And yes, real ones know exactly why Daniel Steres is an LAFC legend, despite never playing for us. What a goal on the header for the Dynamo at the death against the Galaxy to knock them out of the playoffs. That was pretty wonderful. But let's talk about Ben Olsen for a second. In his 4th season with the Houston Dynamo, He has won 53, lost 51, and drawn 29. And this was a club that was on the doormat. They were an absolute doormat, I should say. They were terrible before Ben Olsen, took over. What's up, Bam? The last time we played them in any match of consequence, that would be the 2023 Western Conference Final, where we defeated Ben Olsen's Houston Dynamo 2-0. The only player that is still on that roster from 2023, which is only 3 seasons ago. It's crazy to think this, but the only player that was in the 18 for Houston that day that is still on Houston, or should I say back with Houston now. Oh yeah, Smirty, you're right. Thank you. We'll talk about that in a second. The only player, again, ADHD on fire right now, is Ache. He's the only player that was still on Houston or back with Houston from that 2023 match. And Smirty corrected me in the chat. You're absolutely right. It was so that we could have the number 1 spot in the West, that Daniel Steres header. I think it was in like the 100th minute of the match, something like that. It was crazy. But let's talk just a little bit more about Ben Olsen, former DC United head coach for 375 matches as a player for the DC United, 273 matches, 73 goal contributions. And with the DC United as a player, 2 MLS Cups, 3 Supporters Shields, an Open Cup, the 1998 MLS Rookie of the Year, the 1999 MLS Cup MVP, 2007 Best 11. He also won the Gold Cup in 2005 with the U.S. men's national team. Ben Olsen, who will be on the sidelines taking on Marc Dos Santos, is an absolute legend. Bam, you just let me know whenever that date is in June. It can be all of June for all I'm concerned about, and we're going to go ahead and absolutely have that beverage. All right, that's a lot about Houston, about players not to watch. So why don't we get into our players to watch? Oh, Rob played against Ben Olsen. That's pretty cool. Let's get into our players to watch. And yeah, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's a bit of low-hanging fruit for the scarf on this one. Son Heung-min, I need no introduction for Sonny. Sonny is an all-timer. He is a legend. He is an icon in the game. He also, by the way, has 5 goal contributions in 3 matches so far for LAFC. Of course, the 1 goal and 4 assists. So looking to see Sonny get on the board during the MLS regular season. He's only scored against Real España. And by the way, March 10th and March 17th are the 2 dates. March 10th at home, March 17th in Costa Rica against Alajuelense. So that'll be fun. So Sonny is my player to watch for LAFC. And no surprise, Mateusz Bogusz, the 24-year-old now Polish attacking midfielder. He is their designated player. He came into Houston for reportedly a $10 million fee, or $10 million in total fees from Cruz Azul. I think LAFC may have retained a piece of that fee. I don't know. I got to go back and check with Tommy Bogert, of course. Let's not forget everything that Mateusz Bogusz did for LAFC. 24 goals, 19 assists in 90 matches for LAFC. But it was that magical 2024 season where he had 20 goals and 11 assists in 48 matches. He was amazing for us in 2024. Over the course of 2 seasons-ish, and 1.5 or so with Cruz Azul, only 3 goals and 7 assists in 39 matches. He did, however, win the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup with Cruz Azul. I don't know why that came out so weird. With the goal in the final versus Vancouver, by the way. Mateusz Bogusz, he might have left Cruz Azul maybe not feeling like the experience went very well, but he did score a goal in that CONCACAF Champions Cup final. So good on them. Omar Campos still playing pretty well for Cruz Azul right now. And again, Mateusz Bogusz arriving in Houston for reportedly as much as $10 million in total fees. The former LAFC star. Proud of him that he got paid, right? And now he's getting paid as a designated player. So I know people have asked in the chat, The reason why LAFC didn't bring him back, one, they might not have been interested. I mean, it's okay to say that at this point. But he wanted to come back as a designated player. He wanted the bag. He got the bag from Houston, and I will never begrudge an athlete for getting that bag. That's for sure. So kudos to one Mateusz Bogusz. Very happy to be able to see him. Unfortunately, it will be in highlighter orange. Keys to the match. Look, it's pretty simple. Number one is to find our rhythm early. This will be interesting. I'd rather have Eustaquio than Bogusz right now. Just, I'm saying, I've seen him play for 3 matches. I've seen all I need to see. Steven Eustaquio is special. LAFC needs to find their rhythm early. And what I mean by that, why it's so important, is that LAFC is also having to manage their legs, right? Denis Bouanga and Son Heung-min both played 45 minutes along with Steven Eustaquio in that last match against Real España. So they're going to have to find their rhythm early. There's been a lot of travel for LAFC. There's been a lot of matches in a short amount of time for LAFC. This will be our 4th match in 11 days. So being able to get Sonny and Denis and Eustaquio off the pitch for 45 minutes against Real España was huge. Being able to get players like Jude Terry and Amin Boudry, the minutes that we saw from them was huge. Kenny Nielsen playing very well. Seeing Ryan Hollingshead back out there and playing well was good, although his first touch was a little heavy at times. But that being said, LAFC is going to have to get their best starting 11 back and going and finding their rhythm early in a place that's very tough to play for LAFC at Shell Energy Stadium in Houston. And look, my second key to the match is to possess the ball with intent. Houston does not want the ball, or at least they didn't against Chicago Fire. Houston only possessed the ball 44% of the time. Now, yes, they did find a way to reel off 12 shots. I believe 4 of them were on target against Chicago, 12 shots, 4 on target. But this is not a club that really wants to possess the ball. They did outshoot Chicago 12-6. They didn't allow a lot of shots, but of Chicago's 6 shots that they did allow, 3 of them, half of them, were on frame, 1 finding the back of the net. So if they are going to give us the ball 56% of the time like they did against Chicago, LAFC needs to possess that ball with intent. Maybe don't look to counter the way that we have been. Maybe look to be the aggressor, because honestly, I'm still waiting for Mateusz Bogusz to gel. He did start and play the entire 90 minutes, but he did have a costly error that led to the goal for Chicago. So interesting there for Mateusz Bogusz. I don't think they have the horses up top. I know they have Ezequiel Ponce and Guilherme. Guilherme might be a guy, by the way. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not saying he's not. He had 2 goals in the first game. I'm interested to see what he looks like. He again, 20 goals, 20 assists over the last 2 years for Santos in Brazil. So he could certainly be a guy. But that being said, it's going to be really interesting to see what LAFC does with the ball if they are given the ball 56% of the time. And look, Marc Dos Santos has said it in the press conferences. He wants to possess the ball a little bit more. So it'll be very interesting to see what we do with the ball. I do want to mention something that Schmurdy mentions here in the chat, how Palencia has been pushing forward. 4 combined defenders potentially on Sonny and Denis. Absolutely. So when you get Martinez and Sergi Palencia overlapping, the other interesting thing to talk about is a question that I asked Coach Marc Dos Santos point blank is, why is Eddie Segura getting all of these minutes and not Ryan Hollingshead or Artem Smolyakov? And what he said very plainly was that because Eddie plays on the same side as Denis Bouanga, and Denis pushes so far up to score goals, he wants his left back, at least the back on the side that Denis Bouanga is on, he wants the left back to drop back and continue to play defense, where I think you're seeing a little bit of a wrinkle where a lot of the times Ryan Hollingshead and Sergi Palencia, or Artem Smolyakov and Sergi Palencia, would be pushing up on the wings no matter what Mateusz Bogusz was doing, or no matter what Denis Bouanga was doing. They were always pushing up. And now what you see is maybe a little bit safer for the defense for our defenders. So it looks really interesting when you see Eddie Segura dropping back and it becoming more like absolutely what Gomez is saying in the chat. It becomes more of a 3-4-3, but with almost three center backs, with Eddie Segura playing that role alongside Nkosi Tafara and Ryan Porteous. At least that's what I imagine that we're going to start the match with in Houston. So all that being said, 2-1 to start the year for the Houston Dynamo. So obviously they're scoring goals, which is great. But I think they're only going to get one against LAFC's 3 in this one in Houston. Yes, I am predicting the first LAFC victory in Houston since 2019. And I do believe that both our talismans up top, both Denis and Sonny, get a goal in this one. I'm interested to see who gets the third. By the way, Franco Escobar scored an own goal for LAFC. The old LAFC mate, of course, left LAFC to go to Houston. Franco Escobar scored an own goal for us in that 2023 Western Conference Final. I don't think we're going to get an own goal from Mateusz Bogusz in this one. I think we're going to get 3 scored by LAFC players. I do think there'll be 1 for the Houston Dynamo. And I'm going to call it, I think it'll be off of a penalty. I think somebody's going to commit a foul in the box, and there's going to be a penalty or something like that. And unfortunately, Ugo won't get to that one. By the way, Thomas Asal with a great effort to save that penalty against Real España. So I've got 3-1 LAFC. And again, I've got Denis and Sonny getting 2 of them. No idea who is going to get that third, but it is certainly going to be a fun one. That's too much of me. There we go. I found the button that I was looking for last time, so you don't have a full screen scarf. But this has been One More Sleep. The chat has been lively. We do have others agreeing with me 3-1. I've heard 4-1 in the chat as well. I know there are a bunch of watch parties, so make sure you check where any of those are going to be. Again, this match scheduled to kick off at 5:30 on Apple TV. LAFC looking to win 4 matches in a row to start 2026. It's going to be a fun year here in LAFC land for sure, here on Defenders of the Bank. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens there in Houston. And of course, to say hi to one Mateusz Bogusz before and after the match for 90 minutes. He's public enemy number 1, or whatever number is on the back of his kit. So I've got 3-1. Really interested to hear what all of you guys have to say. I love you all so much for taking some time here in the chat. And you know how we like to end each and every one of these things. Bye-bye.